Hi, I'm Carlo Middione, and this is Carlo Cooks Italian. Today I'll share with you some of my favorite recipes for memorable Southern Italian cooking. Fava Chicory, or fava beans and chicory, is a tasty and healthy dish. A light, delicious match between fresh cauliflower and dried codfish is this insalata di bacala, or codfish salad. And you can't visit Rome without having a plate of these famous braised oxtails Roman style, coda alla vaccinata. Venite cucinare con me. Come cook with me on Carlo Cooks Italian. Welcome to my kitchen. Fava Chicory, fava beans and chicory, is a signature dish in Puglia. This recipe has survived throughout the ages with only a few variations springing up along the way. You might not be familiar with our key ingredients. This is chicory over here, but I'm going to show you how to use the beans and the chicory together to make a healthy and delicious combination on your plate. To start, let me show you a few things about preparing fava beans, and I'll give you the amounts in a few minutes. These fava beans are the true European beans. You know, the beans that you know of, Great Northerns or Navies or other kinds of dried beans, they're all from our continent over here, and they didn't go over to Europe until about the mid-16th century. So if anybody talks about beans before that period, they're talking about the Windsor bean or the fava bean. This is the true European bean, and this really was the great food staple for people, and now it's enjoyed just because it's really good. When these are fresh, they're green, they look like lima beans, but they're tastier, I think, and they're really terrific. So what I did is I soaked these to get these ready for our dish. And here's some that are soaked here. I covered them in about, 3 or 4 times the amount of depth of the beans with cold water. Like if you have an inch of beans in your pan, put 3 or 4 inches over them, let them soak overnight because that plumps them up. And then, you see, when they're plumped up like this, you cook them for about, half an hour just to kind of soften the skins even more. And then you just take the end of your bean like this and just push, and see, and it comes right out. That's real easy. And actually, if you like them cooked a little bit more, you can cook these longer and dip them in oil and salt and eat them. They're terrific. Then, after they're peeled like this, you have to put them into some more water, about 3 inches of water, and cook them until they're nice and tender, but don't overcook them. You don't want to have, you don't want to have them be mushy. And when I was in Puglia and I saw an old lady peeling these while they were dry with a little knife, she was sitting there in Alberobello. She must have been 93 in the shade, and I said, "Gee, Signora, how come you're doing these by hand like this? Why don't you soak them?" And she said, I could do that, but I like them better this way, and besides, it takes a lot of time, and at my age, if I work too fast, what am I going to do with all that time? It's a good philosophy. But anyhow, when these are cooked, you're going to have to mash them up, and you don't want to make a real puree out of them. You just want to do them like this, so that you break them up really good, because unless you eat these hot straight out of cooking them, you're going to have to reheat them. You can do these a day ahead and just gently reheat them. They're okay. And if you don't have one of these things, you could just use a spoon like this. This kind of gets a nice mashing on them, okay? But anyhow, I had some made ahead, and I've got them in my pan. Now, I've got also some red onion over here that I'm going to show you. I just want to adjust my fires over here, because I have to get some heat going, okay? Now, red onion is sometimes called optional in this dish, but I don't think it's really optional. You should use it. And what you want to do is to soak it in cold water for a while, because, that makes it gives it a better flavor, and it's not quite so sharp as it might be just raw. And you want to just take little thin slices like this. And if you're real careful, you can do them like this. Now, these look like they're nice and red, but the minute I put them in my bowl here to soak for a little while, then they're going to be fine. And then just pat them dry. You soak them for about an hour. That's all you do with that. Now, the endive, I simply put in some water. I have a nice amount of water here, and I want to cook these for about 10, 15 minutes until they're really nice and tender. And then, you can just eat them like this. Now, when endive is raw, the little interior yellow part is called frisée. You can put that in salads, and it's got a nice bitterness to it. But when you cook them, they come out really sweet, almost like zucchini. And I love to do them this way, just with a little olive oil on them. They make a great dish. Now, I'm just going to get you maybe like a portion here to show you how this all comes together. And I want to drain these in my colander so that I don't, in other words, I don't want too much water on the plate, okay? I'm going to give a nice amount here. And the way I like to do it is to just put a colander there with a little weight on top of it, and that pushes out enough water so that I can use them later on. And then I've reheated my, my fava beans over here, and then we're almost ready to go. Now I'm going to put some chicory down on my plate, just to arrange it nicely like this. And I'm fluffing it up on purpose because I want this to look really nice on my dish. Huh? Then I'm going to put down my fava. Oh, look how nice this is. Beautiful. Then we have to finish with some of our condiments here. We have a little salt, not too much, but you have to bring some flavor up. Some nice ground pepper on top of that. Then we want to drizzle plenty of olive oil on top of this. Now, this gets quite a bit of olive oil because this becomes sort of the main other flavor in your dish. And then a few onions just like that. Now, that's really a wonderful plate. Now, when you'd like to make fava at Chicory, you'll need 1 pound of dried fava beans, 2 heads of chicory or curly endive, salt and pepper to taste, plenty of extra virgin olive oil, 1 red onion, and that's optional. This is an old classic Southern Italian dish with people all over the world loving it. In fact, one night after attending a Wagnerian opera in Lecce, beautiful place, I went to dinner and I met the soprano from the opera, Margaret Hayward. She was from England, and what was she eating? Fava and chicory, of course, big plate of it. When I told her I was collecting classic Southern Italian recipes from my book, The Food of Southern Italy, she insisted that I include fava and chicory. She didn't have to twist my arm, though, because you can have this throughout Puglia. Wherever you go, you encounter it, and I loved including it in my book. Next, insalata di bacalà, or codfish salad from Calabria. Insalata di bacalà, or codfish salad, is a traditional dish from Calabria combining fresh cauliflower with rehydrated bacalà. I think cauliflower gets a bad rap because most people don't know how to prepare it properly. Usually it tends to get overcooked, and it tastes sort of cabbagey, and they don't like that. So in a minute, I'll teach you the best way to cook cauliflower in order to keep all of its true flavor. This recipe is very simple, so I'll show you how to put it together, and then I'll give you the measurements in a little while, just a little while. So let me start by telling you about the bacalà I'm using. Here's, this is the way you buy it. It's sort of a dry, thick, fleshy piece of fish. You can get bacalà in a whole fish. Sometimes they're this long and they're real flat and they've got skin and bones and everything on them. This one is sometimes called stockfish, and it's all deboned and has all the skin off of it, so you might find that easier for you to use. And you know, many Europeans prefer this kind of fish to fresh cod because it's versatile and it's practical. It goes into a lot of dishes, and it's available. And it's a very highly appreciated dish in the Italian Jewish communities, particularly in Rome. You know, they do it by rehydrating it and then putting it in pastella batter and frying it with artichokes. Delicious. Anyhow, you need to soak this for 2 or 3 days in water, cold water, changing the water often. And if you cut this fish while it's still salty in real thin slices, get a lot of surface on it, it can desalinate in half the time, actually. So you can buy this in your delicatessens, ethnic delicatessens, your big, you know, sort of specialty stores will have it. Sometimes supermarkets have it. Now, this is a fish that I've been rehydrating here. This has been in here a couple of days, and you just need to change that water. Now, when I'm ready to cook this, all you do is take this out, put it into simmering water, about a couple of quarts, and poach it for about 15 minutes. Then take it out and drain it, and it'll look like this, you see. This is all ready to go. That's very nice, very good to use that way. So this is all ready here. So let me show you about cauliflower. Now, you know, when you buy cauliflower, it should be firm and look nice. This is a nice one. It's got no stains on it or anything. And I just trim mine, depending on how I'm going to use it. I just pull all of these outer leaves off like this, and I just take a small knife and go around. And then usually I eat the whole stem out of this myself just because I like it raw. But if you don't want to do that, just cut it up and use it with the rest of your dish. But I'm just going to show you a couple of things here. You can just pull a piece off like this if you want. You don't even have to cut it. It just depends on how small they are. This is almost the right size. This is a little big, so I'll cut that in half, and maybe in quarters. These are going to be perfect sizes here. So that's the way you do that. You can either cut or pull them apart. So I'm just going to put these aside now until I can make the rest of my dish and show you. This is a nice way to cook cauliflower, no matter how you're going to use it. If you need to have it pre-cooked, what you do is you simply get some lightly salted water boiling, just like this is here, and you put the cauliflower in. And you want to cook it for not more than 5 minutes, maybe pieces this size, maybe 3 or 4 minutes. And don't overcook it, because you don't want it mushy and to taste like cabbage. And you sure don't want it to be crunchy, because then it's you might as well eat it raw. Then when this is done, you just drain it real good, spread it on a plate, and let it cool off until you're ready to make the salad. Now over here, I've got my bacala and I've got my cauliflower, so I just want to cut these up into pieces like this, and these break up. And you know, by the time you toss the salad a few times, these break up even more, but you just want to get a head start here, and you want to have nice little chunks like this, and I'm just going to mix this all in, and then I'm going to put some parsley in. I've got some parsley over here, and I don't need too much, but I want to get enough because this is actually a flavor. This is not a garnish. And I'm just going to cut it up like this, and then just chop it. And as I say, you don't want to get this too fine, because then you won't be tasting any parsley. Huh? Okay, that's good like that. See? Nice pieces of green. I'll put this right over here. Now, I've just got to put my dressing on, which I've got. I can't seem to do that, so there it goes. All right, I'm going to put on some white wine vinegar. I'm going to put on a couple of teaspoons. Don't overwhelm this with vinegar. Now, always use wine vinegar, because that's the best taste for Italian food. Plenty of black, fresh ground pepper, and then extra virgin olive oil. And this is always the best to use. It's the highest quality. And you know, extra virgin olive oil means that it has less than 1% acidity, and that makes it very, very sweet and very, very nice, as a matter of fact. Now I'm just going to toss this up. And you know, you can serve this salad cooled, not refrigerated, and you could actually serve it hot if you wanted to, but this is a nice way to do it, just like this. And just remember, don't serve this icy cold, because then the olive oil will congeal and you won't get any of the flavors, and the texture won't be right. There, now that looks like a very nice portion to me. Now when you want to make codfish salad, you'll need 1½ pounds of soaked bacala, 1 head of cauliflower, 1/3 cup of parsley, about 2 teaspoons of white wine vinegar or to taste, several grindings of pepper, and about 1/4 cup of extra virgin olive oil or to taste. Bacala is an extremely convenient food, especially if you can't get fresh fish at your local market whenever you want it. I really like the contrast between the texture of the fish and the earthiness of the cauliflower. It's a fresh, healthy pairing. But if you're still not wild about cauliflower, this salad is also very good with string beans, or you can use broccoli. Next, coda alla vaccinata, braised oxtails, Roman style. Coda alla vaccinata, braised oxtails, Roman style, is a famous, typical Roman dish. If you've ever eaten ossobuco, this tender, succulent dish is 5 times better. I'd rather have this than a great big porterhouse steak. To start, though, let me show you how to prepare the meat. Now, nowadays, oxtails are, what are they? They're from steers or cows. And originally, these were taken from ox, and then they were cut up in pieces, very much like you see over here. And then when they were cooked, they added a jowl, a guancia. This is the cheek part of the head, because it makes a really good gelatinous texture, and it's got that wonderful sort of silky texture to it, and it also adds really good flavor. But nowadays, it's hard to get that. With these oxtails, though, they'll come cut like this. If they have a lot of fat on them, just trim it off, because you don't want too much fat on there. Then you have to wash them really good in cold water. Then you soak them in cold water for an hour, because, you know, cold draws things out. That's the whole theory of making a stock. You know, you start out with cold water, and it draws things. So if there's any little surface blood or impurities, they come out, and then you just discard that water, and then you're ready to start in. Now, there's 2 ways to do this dish. The most typical way is like I'm going to show you here, which is in bianco. It means white. Bianco is white. And I'm putting this into, these oxtails into boiling water over here. And this was boiling a second ago. Here it comes. And the reason that I'm doing that is to sear it. You know, when you brown meat, you're told to get color on it and to sear it. That's because it seals up the exterior so that the meat remains juicy. Well, you can do this with hot water. The minute it hits that heat, then I think this is all I need here. I'm going to put these in. Then that's it. Now, you could brown these in a little bit of fat of any kind that you like, and that gives you a darker color and some more flavor. However, the real typical way is to really make these the way the Romans do, in bianco. Then you want to boil these for 10 minutes. After 10 minutes, you lower the heat, and you just let them simmer for about an hour uncovered. And this does two things. One is it starts to tenderize the meat, because it's pretty tough at the beginning. And also, you're going to end up with a really tasty stock here, which if we need it, we're going to add to our sauce as we go. But no matter what, if you don't use it all, don't throw it away, because it becomes a base for a soup. You can add beans and vegetables. You have a delicious soup. Okay, now that's all going. Over here, I have a pan. This pan is fairly hot. I'm going to add some prosciutto fat. Now this prosciutto fat, I just cut it off a piece of prosciutto that I bought. You can, sometimes you can buy prosciutto fat from your delicatessen, and you want to, you know, it shouldn't be too meaty, though. It has to be really the fat that you're going to be using. Now, if you just can't get it, then use salt pork, or you can even use lard, because those are the typical flavors that you're going to have here. Now, if you absolutely can't have products like that, then just use extra virgin olive oil. And what am I doing with this? I'm going to add this in a minute. But anyhow, use extra virgin olive oil if you can't use any of these pork products. Now, I'm going to turn this flame way down here, and see it's smoking. Just going to leave that alone. And then I've got to go get some vegetables prepped up over here. Now, I've got to add some carrot and some celery, because I have not quite enough here. And when I get a piece of celery like this, here's the way I like to cut mine. I make a cut like this, and then I make another cut like this. And then if it's a little bit thick down here like this, I'll make a couple of cuts here, because the reason I do that is that then I'm just going to chop like this. Then I have my pieces all done, and you see with one stroke of the knife, then I get, you know, a nice amount of yield over here. So I just needed about that much more, and that's enough. So I'm going to put this into my dish here, and then I'm going to add a little bit of carrot. I have almost enough there. And here again, here, don't waste any of that. Over here, I'm going to cut this carrot up, trim that. And over here, you want to be careful. Don't let this roll, and watch your fingers. See, I like to do it like this so that I'm safe. And then again, I cut these in pieces and strips, maybe about in threes if that's what I need. And then I'm going to need maybe, this is a little bit bigger here, so I'll cut this in fours. But anyhow, that's the whole idea. See, once you make these cuts and you get it all together, then you can start in. See? And then you just go chop, 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 chop. And if you hold your fingers like this with this knife going against it, you won't get into any trouble, okay? So that's about what I need here. So we can go over and get our sauce going. Okay, now this onion, this garlic is nicely colored up, and the fat's really melting. So I'm just going to put everything in, and I want to get a kind of a golden color on this. Don't burn it up, but, you know, just take your time. This could take maybe 12, 13 minutes or whatever, and just keep this going. Then I'm going to put in a bay leaf, which I tear in half. I'm going to put in some tomato. It doesn't matter in what order you put these in. And then I'm also going to put in some white wine. Now, you could use tomatoes that are fresh, or they could be canned. It doesn't really matter. And I need a plenty amount of wine over here. And then I'm going to put in some parsley. You know, I'm going to put this all in because it really is good and it's very tasty. So then this all stirs around. Now, when this is cooked, it'll take about 20 or 30 minutes. I want to add some salt. You could add the salt before, or you can add it after. It doesn't really matter. But you want to simmer this for 20 or 30 minutes. And if it gets too dense or too thick, just take some of the water from your oxtails and just add them to this. You don't want to make it soupy, but you want to make it moist. Now, these oxtails are the ones that have been cooking for an hour, like I told you earlier. Remember? You blanch them first and then simmer them for about an hour. Now, these, I just add in here. Here's another couple of them. And these then just get moved around, and they simmer until they're done. Then when they're done, we want to test, like these I have over here, for doneness. The fork goes in and out easily. See, those are nice. So we're going to get some going here. I'll show you the kind of a portion I like. About 3 of these would be enough, but maybe because I like this, I'm going to have a little bit more and some juices here to go on it. And that, for me, is a really beautiful dish. When you'd like to make braised oxtails Roman style, you'll need 4 pounds of oxtails, 2 ounces of prosciutto fat, 2 cloves of garlic, 2 carrots, 2 branches of celery, 1 yellow onion, 1 bay leaf, 1 cup of dry white wine or water, 12 ounces of crushed tomatoes, 1/3 cup of parsley, salt to taste, and plenty of pepper. For me, this is a meal of nostalgia because I know so many people from the areas where these dishes originated, and I've had so many memorable and warm times eating these dishes. I love them. Fava chicory, fava beans, and chicory. If this dish doesn't epitomize the flavors and cooking style of southern Italy, I don't know what does. Insalata di bacala, or codfish salad, is terrific for lunch or dinner. The codfish and cauliflower are a delicious combination. These unusual braised oxtails, Roman style, or coda alla vaccinata, are particularly good on a cold, wintry day with some crusty homemade bread. If you'd like wine with this meal, you might enjoy a red wine like this Montepulciano d'Abruzzo of Cornacchia. It's a rich red wine that tastes of cherries and leather, and it would be perfect with the whole menu. Well, that's it for now. In bocca al lupo.